everyone. Thanks for sorry for the interruption. Okay, so today we're going to talk about components as units of work. Hi, I'm Bryce. I'm from Minnesota. I'm an engineer at Target. I work on Target.com's React front end. You find me on Twitter at Kalow. I occasionally retweet the React core team when they do cool stuff. First, I want to talk about components. So components let you split the UI into independent, reusable pieces and think about each piece in isolation. And in their purest form, components represent individual pieces of our UIs. As our applications grow, our components also evolve to encompass a lot of other functionality. They fetch data, add event listeners, handle navigation, manage state, and so on. It can get pretty overwhelming. We use the React lifecycle to control the execution flow of our applications in between renders. And this is crucial for large React applications, as most things are controlled by and kind of live in the React component tree. Imagine navigation, app state, configuration. Usually they're somewhere in your tree. So how can we orchestrate functionality within the React lifecycle without constructing brittle and hard-to-maintain logic? Think about similar logic spread between did mount and did update, like Sophie and Dan showed in the keynote. And think when we're comparing props and did update, trying to get that perfect condition to execute a function. So what can we do about it? We can use components. Components don't have to render anything, but they can still do something. Returning null from render is totally valid, and you're probably using this pattern already. It's a simple pattern, but I think it's really powerful. You can componentize your lifecycle logic. We can take logic that's spread across multiple lifecycles, like did mount and did update, and we can put them inside of contained components and compose logic just like we do our UIs. And I also think that hooks will do this really well. So if you think of hooks in this diagram, I think that's also pretty appropriate. We can do cool things with components, like use keys to remount them. And it's super declarative. Like, if you have a component, you're saying, when my application is in this state, do this thing. It just kind of makes sense, and it's how we compose presentations, so why not logic? Here's a quick example of a component that we have in our application. It checks the deployed version of the app versus the version that's on the client, and if they're out of date, it just refreshes to get the latest assets. So in did mount, we're setting up some work. It's an interval. It just checks the version. In check version, we're doing a call to get the version from our server, and if the client version and the version that are deployed don't match, we set a flag on the instance of the component and indicating that we should refresh. And in render, if we should refresh, we return a refresh component. So we are actually rendering a component, but that one doesn't render anything either. It just tells us to refresh the page. And we can use a flag on the instance of the component versus using state of the component, because we have complete control over the updating lifecycle and the rendering lifecycle of this component. So we can say, only update client version check when the URL changes. And when it re-renders, we get refresh. React Router also uses this pattern a lot internally. Redirect is a great example. So it takes one prop, in this case 2, and it redirects the user to a different path if they're logged in. And this, I think it's great when you compose like this because it's super declarative. You can see this component, and you can see if I'm logged in, I'm going to be redirected to the dashboard or render the public homepage. And within the React Router internals, there's a component called lifecycle that doesn't actually render anything, but it takes props to execute in the lifecycle methods. So I think that's pretty cool. The React docs have a great page on thinking in React, and I believe that this pattern is really just a continuation of that idea. So maybe think about embracing using components beyond just presentation. If you're using this pattern and you just want to talk about anything React, please come find me afterwards. I'd love to hear about it. My slides are at this link. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of the conference.